Oh, I have a new belt, because my old belt looked like it was tortured on Game of Thrones. I don't know what happened to it. I think it's because I don't like to give up on the belt hole. I'm like, we're still good. And my poor belt was like, I could have been a watch band for David Beckham. But a belt for a fat guy serves a different purpose. A thin person wears a belt to hold up their pants. These pants aren't going anywhere. A fat guy just wears a belt as a distraction. Distracting from the fact that this is all the same surface. It's just a mini equator separating the northern hemisphere from the southern blob. And the wider the belt, the greater the illusion. That's just science. That's why Santa's belt is like a conveyor belt. It's not even holding up his pants, it's keeping his jacket closed. And we're leaving cookies out for that slob? Of course, Santa wears suspenders under his coat. Suspenders, the last stop for the fat guy. Because eventually the gut gets so big, the pants need to be suspended. Like a bridge. The belt no longer fits across the equator, it must be buckled underneath. Instead of holding up the pants, it drags them down. Because every action has an equal opposite reaction. Forcing one to choose between suspenders or a lifetime of plumber jokes. Sad. Thank you to everyone who watched the Jimm Gaffigan show, by the way. I appreciate it. And if you didn't watch, that just means you're a jerk. But thank you if you did watch, because there are so many television shows and episodes of television shows we could and should be watching. It's amazing any of us are here right now. It's kind of overwhelming. DVR, on demand. Sometimes I open my Netflix, I'm like, I don't think I can do it. I'm not even gonna make a dent here. And I know there's pressure. We all feel it, because we've developed excuses for our friends, like we're dealing with debt collectors. You watch Game of Thrones? I'm a little behind. Give me a week. My wife had a dumb baby. And it's never ending. You finish that show, now you have to watch this show, and then now I need to learn how to read again. I need to sound out some words and see if I can read. Have you read a physical book lately? Not on a tablet or a laptop, an actual book. You feel like you're Abe Lincoln. Oh, it's made of wood, hope it doesn't catch on fire. When does this have to be back at the museum? Because we're all binge watching. I remember when they first introduced the idea of binge watching, I was like, how pathetic. I'm just gonna watch an episode or two. I haven't showered in a week. I'm a grandfather. I missed my own funeral. I binge watch shows I don't even like. This is pretty bad. I guess I'll watch 5 more episodes. I watched every episode of True Blood, and I'm not even gay. I know some of you are like, Jim, watching True Blood doesn't mean you're gay. That's because you're gay. It's the #1 cause of gayness. My friends don't understand. They're like, when do you watch? You have 5 kids. I ignore them. I can't go to that recital. I'm re-watching West Wing. It's embarrassing how I consume television. There are nights when I've told myself, all right, 1 more season. I'm going to bed. I mean, come on. It's hard to stop. You see the ending. You want the accomplishment, right? Oh, you ran a 10K? Yeah, I finished Mad Men. I did it. I'm a little sore, but I did it. I'm a television athlete. I'm a telathlete. It's strange when you get done watching an entire series. You don't know what to do with yourself. You're like, I haven't been this lost since the ending of Lost. Should I go to a bar? I don't know if I remember how to talk to people. And starting a new show, that's kind of like a blind date, right? You know, well, my friend said you were great. I'm free tonight, so I think I'm ready to put myself back out there. Because we have relationships with these television shows. You ever break up with a show, you watch a bunch of episodes, and you're like, it's over. I don't even know you anymore. I gave up the best nights of my life. Netflix, they won't let you forget your mistakes. They keep them in your queue. Remember this relationship? I was drunk. I was on the rebound. They'll make suggestions. Since you enjoyed True Blood, here's some other gay shows. Maybe I would like the L word. I don't know. Netflix has definitely made watching television with commercials kind of painful. It takes forever. You're like, what am I, growing my own food here? All right, Geico, we get it! And it's not just the length or the number of the commercials, it's what the commercials say about the typical viewer of the show you're watching. Catheter? Why would... Reverse mortgage? Back pain? I do have back pain. You know me so well, television show. I watch a lot of cable news because I enjoy being depressed. That's the only reason to watch. After 5 minutes, they just repeat the same stories. Remember that horrible thing? Wait till we show you 20 more times. You won't be able to sleep. I think it's interesting how all the cable newscasters are very attractive. They're very attractive and they're dressed up. I don't know why. You know, you're talking about a hurricane. What's with the evening gown? But we all kind of watch like, thanks for showing some leg. Cable newscasters are so attractive, when they interview a regular person, it's visually distracting. You're like, is that a bad guy? Or a victim? I know they're a loser in this scenario, but the newscasters, those are our town gossips, right? And that's what newscasters are, they're town gossips. They're like, you're not gonna believe what happened to this person you've never met before. Isn't that sad? By the way, there's some weird stuff going on in England. I have a friend, John, over there. John, why don't you tell him about it? Thanks, John. Isn't that horrible? By the way, it's gonna rain tomorrow. I'm like 99% positive it's gonna rain, and that's sad. Most of my friends under the age of 30 don't even have cable. And I'm like, where do you send your $500 a month? It's getting to be embarrassing to have cable, right? You have cable? I'm getting rid of it. You know, when I die. Technology's moving so fast, and there's times when you feel like you're on top of it, and then there's times when you feel like that friend with the flip phone. We all have the friend or relative with a flip phone. You're like, where'd you get that? Do you use that to call the past? What character were you on Breaking Bad? But there's definitely moments when I'm the person with the flip phone. Like, I have a landline. Some of you are like, what's a landline? No one wants to admit they have a landline. It's like discovering you're still paying for AOL. Here's how I justify having a landline. I'm like, well, I need a landline in case all the cell towers go out, and then I could call no one. Our landline will ring. Our landline will ring. My wife and I, we won't even move to answer it. Well, it's obviously not for us. No one we know has that number. It's like paying a stranger $10 a month to interrupt dinner. By the way, I know nobody's phone number. I don't even know my own wife's phone number. If I was arrested and I was allowed one call, I'd be like, I don't know, 911. I do miss slamming down the landline when I was angry. You know, like, you can go to hell. Tsh. You can't do that with a cell phone. You can go to hell. Don't want that to fall in the toilet. SUVs and pickups.
Mm-hmm.
I think the SUVs, you know, that's something that, like, the fact that we have 5 children and we don't own a car. So when we rent a car, we're usually going on long journeys where we have not only our 5 kids, but we sometimes will have a babysitter or a cousin or something like that.
Or like 6 pieces of luggage.
Or so much luggage. We can't even fit in
a
anything
minivan,
but a large SUV. Like, it has to be a big one. And so we've kind of like been forced to kind of like even climbing into an SUV, the experience, the
gas,
the gas, the kind of like culturally how we've always been debating the SUVs.
and how we've always been like, we should get rid of these SUVs, and then we just started like making more SUVs.
Yeah.
And then also, I think one of the things that seemed so ludicrous about the pickup truck is that like there's like 2 seats in the pickup truck, and most of the cargo that we have to carry is like human.
Right.
So it just seems like so opposite.
And the pickup truck, that was inspired by my brother Mike. When we visited him. He lives outside of Peoria. And I remember he's always had a pickup truck, and he's never like he's never really had like a man's bench or anything, like a woodworking bench or anything. He's just like that's what he identifies.
He's like not a construction guy.
No, he's not.
But that's what he drives.
And so, but like there's something about the car thing. I do come from this car family where I do feel like I'm missing something. Like I remember when I was in my 30s and I would hear my brothers and sisters talk about real estate, I'd be like, how boring are you? But that's how I still feel when I hear people talk about cars. I'm like, why is that so interesting? It's just a form of transportation. Steak.
Jim loves steak.
I do love steak. I mean, it is come to a point where after a show, that's what I want to do. I want to go to a steakhouse, like when we're on tour.
Yeah, and it's like, far be it from me to be one of those like nagging wives, but when you do like 20 shows in a row, it's just not good for you.
No, it's not.
Like, it's not a treat anymore. It's like going to a steakhouse should be like a once in a while like treat.
Yeah.
I'm not condemning it, but it's like you eat too much steak.
Well, the thing is like, you know, and I touch a little bit on it, is that the steakhouse experience is something that I just love. And there was, you know, I think I was in Denver and I ate in John Elway's place, and I remember I came up with a joke where I was like, I don't even think John Elway made my steak. But it was just something about the steakhouse experience. You love the whole thing. I just love the whole thing. I love how it's dimly lit. I love how
the misogyny.
What's that?
Nothing.
You know, it is weird because we also tried to, because I remember like Angela and Ken had a friend that used to go to strip clubs and buy strippers steaks. Like there were strip clubs.
That sounds about right.
And so like I remember we tried to do a joke about how steakhouses are very close to strip joints, except for it's like one's cooked meat, you know, but like we never, because it was also icky. But anyway, so that was.
So you're saying what?
I love steak.
Okay.
I do love steak, but it is rather barbaric, right? I mean, we're eating a part of a cow, and I love animals, and I love animal lovers. My favorite are the people that carry around the dog in a bag. Whenever I see that, I always think, what an adorable way to let us know you're crazy. Because they're crazy. They're carrying around an animal that can walk in a bag. They're not going to the vet, they're shopping. That's okay, but if I carry around a canned ham, I'm a weirdo. It'd be one thing if the dog looked happy, but the dog always has a look on his face like, can you believe I'm sitting in a purse? I was part of Mexican royalty. But I get it, I love dogs, and I think it's cute when people dress their dogs up, but how do you have your dog in a jacket and walk by a homeless person? Sorry, I'd help, but I spent all my money on a coat for my animal that's born with a coat. I love cats. Some people don't like cats. Our neighbor has a cat, and she lives in a studio apartment, or as I refer to it, a litter box. One time she asked me, she was like, "Can you even tell I have a cat?" And I was like, "No, but I can tell you have a box of turds in your apartment." I'm not sure if that's the same question. We all have the friend with the cat, right? In the small place, you visit them, the cat does their business. You don't really acknowledge it. You just go on with the conversation. "What do you want on your pizza?" "Bleach." "Febreze, can we open a window or knock down a wall? Are my eyes bleeding? How about we throw a diaper on the kitty?" But I get it, because I love animals. I think being around animals, there's a healing quality. But I also think we give animals too much credit. Like a dog is man's best friend. I've never seen a dog help someone move. Yes, horses are graceful and elegant until you see them poop standing up. Dolphins are smart. Learn English like Jesus did. For the record, I would never eat a dolphin because I don't like fish. And I know I'll get tweets where people will say dolphins are mammals, and those are the people I block. Because that's how I deal with criticism. This is the point in the show where I usually think about what I'm going to eat afterwards. I typically get a steak because I'm a man. And I tell you, if eating steak is manly, it is the only manly attribute I have. I know nothing about cars. I'm not handy. I can't fix things. Something breaks in our apartment. I just look at my wife like, we should call someone. I don't even call, my wife calls. Some stranger comes over. I just kind of watch him work. I'm like, "You want some brownies or something?" My wife could make us some brownies. I don't know how to work the stove. Sometimes I try and act like I have something more important to do. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be over here working on my diarrhea jokes. In case you want to talk sports or steak or something." But I don't know why steak is considered manly. I guess it harkens back to when a man would hunt the animal, they'd kill the animal, and then they'd eat the animal. But now we just eat the animal. And it's not as if hunting a cow was ever that hard. "Today, fellas, we are gonna hunt ourselves the elusive cow." "Oh, there's one right here." "How do you get the milkshakes out of that thing?" But I do love steak. I order steaks from Omaha Steaks. Do you buy your meat online? That's not a sign of a problem. Just type it in, a styrofoam cooler shows up. The same kind of cooler they're gonna deliver my replacement heart in. There's always a neighbor walking by when I get a delivery, like, "Jim got another box of meat. I imagine that apartment will be free in a little bit." Whenever I eat steak at home, I always use A1 steak sauce. Everyone has that same thin bottle of A1 that feels empty right before it floods your steak. Everyone's had the same bottle of A1 since 1989. I was looking at the ingredients, magic and prunes. But I love steak. I love going to a steakhouse, one of those old-fashioned steakhouses. You go in there, it's dimly lit. The waiters are no nonsense. "You getting a steak, son? You want a steak, right?" "Yes, ma'am, I want a steak." Have you been to one of the steakhouses where they show you the raw cuts of meat? They just kind of thrust them at the table. They're like, "You can get this one or this one." And men were so visual. "Do it in my mouth area. Me likey meaty." Sometimes they show you a vegetable like you've never seen one. "This is a potato." "That's a potato." But the vegetables in a steakhouse, they don't come with the steak. They're a la carte, like legroom on Southwest. And they're not even called vegetables, they're called side dishes. Because what they do to vegetables in steakhouses, they're no longer vegetables. "You can get our spinach that we cooked in ice cream. There's also our house specialty, which is a baked potato stuffed with 20 sticks of butter. If you're on a diet, we can do it with 19 sticks." But I love a steak. When I die, I want to be buried in a steakhouse. Well, not buried, just my casket on display. And people in steakhouse, they wouldn't even care. They'd be like, what's the deal with the casket? That was a comedian. His one wish, yeah, I'll have a ribeye. Coming right up, Mrs. Gaffigan. I do love her. She can be demanding, like unrealistic demands, like she wants me to lose weight. I have no expectation of losing weight. Some of it is, I used to have all these jokes on donuts, and now sometimes when I do shows out of town, people will give me boxes of donuts, which makes me think, I gotta start doing jokes about private jets. But I'll do a show and someone will give me a box of donuts, or I'll get to my hotel room and in my hotel room there'll be a box of donuts. And I always look at the donuts like, I'm not gonna eat those. I mean, those were a gift. What would Jesus do? He'd eat the donuts. But it's always a box, a dozen donuts. I'm by myself, I'm typically in a city for one night. What kind of monster pig do I come across as? How many donuts should we get, Gaffigan? Enough for a Baptist church. Whatever would feed an entire Little League team, that'll cover that tub of turds for a couple hours. I don't know what to do with all the donuts. I'll eat 2. All right, I'll eat 4. But I don't know what to do with the rest of them, What do I put them in my rolly luggage? I did that once. I'm not proud of it. We've all done things we're not proud of. You're like, this is kind of pathetic, but here goes. Zip, zip, zip. Off to the airport we go. Of course, that was the time I got the random search at the airport. I made it through the metal detector. This nice TSA guy was like, sorry, sir, random search of your bag. And I was like, what I wanted to say is, I have drugs in my butt. Because a cavity search at that moment seemed less humiliating than revealing the true contents of my luggage. But I had to do it, so the TSA guy unzipped the bag. And it was one of those flat boxes of donuts, like Krispy Kreme, so it took up the entire rolly bag. It looked like I was smuggling donuts. And the TSA guy just looked at me like, wow. They sell those here. There's a Dunkin' Donuts 2 gates away. There was such compassion in his eyes. You got a problem. And I couldn't say anything. I couldn't be like, those are mine. Yeah, some guy gave them to me. Some guy named Al-Qaeda, he gave them to me. I'd act all casual. I'd be like, yeah, those are my donuts. I travel with donuts. I'm trying to get diabetes. Why don't you leave me alone? And since it was a random search, the actual box of donuts had to be open. And because I was wheeling through the airport, all the donuts were crammed and smushed to one end. It looked like I had rummaged through a dumpster outside of a donut shop. Oh, this one's still good. Just get these rocks and sticks out of here. That's a perfectly good powdered sugar. No, that's Ajax on that one. The TSA guy just looked at me like, you can go. It's probably your last flight anyway. Spent a couple weeks there. I stayed in this really nice, bed and breakfast. The woman that was running it, every morning she would ask me, she was like, are you gonna go hiking today? And all I could think was, wow, this lady knows nothing about me. Hiking, not today or ever. I wouldn't hike to escape the Nazis. Like if I was in that movie Sound of Music and they're like, to avoid the Nazis, head over those mountains, I would have been, mountains? Isn't there a basement I could hide in? I mean, like a finished basement, yeah. One with like a keg and an NFL season pass, you know what I'm talking about? I've been hiking. The first thing you notice when you go hiking is it's a mistake. Oh, we're not walking anywhere in particular. There's nothing at the end of this trail. There's no bar or restaurant. Not even a vending machine. We're just idiots. There's always that moment when you go hiking when you realize, oh no, now we have to walk back. There's no exit through the gift shop. I want to like hiking. It's like horseback riding. You want to like it, and then you get on a horse and you're like, that's right, I'm not a 12-year-old girl. Get me off this poor animal. But hiking is huge. It's huge. There's hiking clothing. There's clothing for walking outside. I thought all clothing was for walking outside. And there's whole parts of the country, the entire Pacific Northwest, everyone's dressed like there could be an impromptu hike at a moment's notice. Well, I'm going for coffee, but you never know what a hike might break out. So I'll put on some sturdy shoes and a breathable fleece. That joke was brought to you by Patagonia. You usually hike with a friend, right? And pretend you're in a Viagra commercial. How is your erectile dysfunction? There's always that solo hiker that looks like they just got rid of a body. Was that guy with someone? Why is he carrying a garbage bag? Is that Dexter? Why'd you ask me to walk in the woods? But it's not just walking. Hiking involves an unnecessary amount of climbing. You want to climb up here? No, I don't want to climb up there. I'm an adult. I have a driver's license. I don't like climbing. I don't like climbing into an SUV. You know that final step up? I'm always like, is this worth it? Why can't you have a normal car? What are we going on a safari? I better see a damn elephant if I'm climbing into your gas guzzler. But once you get in an SUV, you're always like, oh yeah, let's invade Iraq.
Hi, this is Jim, and
I'm Jeannie. I'm co-executive producer and wife.
And weird if you didn't clap. What's interesting about this chunk is obviously it's the beginning of the show, and the important thing is to break the ice with the audience. And so, there's opening lines. It's kind of diffusing the expectations and the tension of the show beginning. And it's very hard to start a show. It's, if you're when you're traveling, normally you'll address kind of like the city you're in, whether you're in Pittsburgh or London. And so on a special, you want to kind of just break the ice. And that's where I have those opening lines about that. This chunk is also about being a fat guy. And, the reality is I wasn't always a fat guy. Like when you met me, I was
Skinny.
And when we wrote the book, Dad is Fat, the title, which my son came up with, was humorous because I wasn't fat. But now it's true. I am fat. And,
But also just about breaking the ice is like you're coming out there and immediately establishing what your relationship with the audience is going to be.
Yeah. And also being self-effacing. It diffuses the situation. There's an awareness there that I think people will take advantage of. And, there's a self-effacing nature. And some of these jokes are inspired by real life, whether it be like my pants are tight. It's because when you travel as much as I do, you just pack things in a bag and then you're forced to wear them. So you'll pack the wrong pair of black pants. So you have to wear these really tight pants. So you're forced to deal with that joke. So I had all these jokes about fatting out of clothes. Of course, when you're a kid, you grow out of clothes. But as an adult, you really only fat out of clothes.
I think everyone can relate to that.
Well, I don't know if everyone can relate to it. I mean, I feel like there was so much.
You can pregnant out of clothes.
You can pregnant out of clothes. But there was so much, there's a balancing act in a set where you don't want to do too much kid stuff and you don't want to be too kind of like, I'm a fat ass. You know what I mean? You have to balance it. And so that's why that material came out. Some like the marshmallow with a wig on, that was inspired because I did this movie where I was forced to dye my hair and shave my beard. So I literally look like a marshmallow with a wig on. And so that's the first chunk. Traveling with Killers, this is our second special where we have had 5 kids. And I love the fact that it's a bit of a time capsule capturing this moment in time with our kids. So there's these jokes, that are about Patrick and Michael that, as they get older, it'll be fun to listen to this. I mean, we never will, but it would be fun to listen to it and kind of remember the chaos that we're dealing with today.
Yeah, it's pretty tough right now.
But this is about parenting, and I feel like when you're the parent, whether it be 5 kids or 2 kids, you have to kind of complain about it. That's part of that means you're participating, right?
And you go really dark. You're like, it just would be better to be dead.
Yeah, but I think a lot of parents identify with that.
Probably not, but
okay.
Just keep telling yourself that. No, I always just like when you're like, oh, eventually you die. The reason I don't like it is because it's like, oh yeah, you're not going to get out that easy.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not going to just die and leave me to do this all by myself.
I hope
so.
Not.
Stop being selfish.
Okay.
And wanting to die.
Okay.
Woke up today at 7 a.m. Got out of bed around 1:30. Because I need a good reason to get out of bed, like fire. And that won't even get me out of bed. One time I was in a hotel, the fire alarm went off. I didn't even get out of bed. I was like, that's a test. I bet my life that's a test. I don't understand the morning people. Even on my day off, I'll get up at 6. We should be able to hit these people. I'm jealous. Yes, hatred. Applaud hatred. But in reality, I'm jealous. I mean, you have to understand, my role models were the grandparents in that movie, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I remember watching that movie as a kid and seeing the scene with the grandparents in bed and thinking, I like these people. I like what they're all about. They were in bed full time. What if we did this till we died? They weren't even watching television. They were looking at the other grandparents. How's your bed? It's good. It's good. It's the same as your bed. They were so into bed. They lived in poverty. Their grandson got a golden ticket where he could win an entire chocolate factory, and only one of the grandparents got out of bed. The other 3 were like, good luck, Charlie. You win the factory and make me a chocolate bed. Typically, I have to get up early because I have young children and they want to experience things like life. What are we doing today? Well, I was hoping to nap. Can we go outside? It's closed.
Okay, Mary Had a Little Lamb. I think this is a classic example of something that was annoying me. I was in Western Mass, and I didn't know the person driving the car, but we drove by this, and someone pointed it out. And I remember just being kind of annoyed that I was supposed to be impressed about the song Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Some comedians go after political figures. Jim goes after the song Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yeah, because it's BS. Anyway, so I remember I had a show that night in Boston, and, the Boston audiences can be so exceptional that you can just kind of play with an idea, particularly if you're talking about New England in Boston. And so I was kind of just going off on it. And then eventually, over time, we just kind of worked on some of the jokes and fine-tuned it. And, of course, ending with Why Does Everyone Smell Like Poo, which is
a song that we basically wrote.
It's a classic, right? That's my theme song. All right, Pirate Cruise. This joke was inspired when we were in Erie, and I went and I didn't even go on this cruise. I've been on a pirate cruise before. Mm-hmm. I don't want to brag, but I've been on a pirate cruise with my kids, and I just took Michael and Patrick and bought the tickets to this pirate cruise and bought them kind of the pirate swag and stuff like that. And they were so excited. And I remember thinking, it's so odd. It's like, at that time they were 4 and 3. Kids at that age are frightened of Santa, but they love pirates.
But also we become so immune to it because we're like, here's your sword.
Yeah.
Here's your dagger.
Right.
Here's your eye patch because you lost an eye. Isn't that cute?
Yes. Yeah. And so that was just such a And there's a reference to like the Hitler thing in there, and there is when I was compiling this hour, I was like, my gosh, there's a lot of Hitler references in this hour, but it is funny because some of it is the tension associated with a topic and then relieving it.
Well, and also like, whereas like some other comedians like go out of their way to be offensive, like you like are accidentally offensive.
Yes.
So it's really crazy that I've never actually met your father, like
Right.
that he passed away before we even met. But I feel like I've known him forever because of the larger than life character that has kind of emerged between the stories that your brothers and sisters tell, your imitation of him, the photographs. Like I feel like I know the guy.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think that track is 17 years old. 17 years old. And that material, a version of that, was my first television appearance, which was Caroline's Comedy Hour. And I remember it was the first time I actually got paid, I think, to do stand-up comedy. And I did my dad material, and I was very excited for him to watch it. And I called him, and he goes, I couldn't find that damn channel. Because it was on like A&E, and he couldn't find A&E. But it's crazy to hear that material because, I mean, I think it's well constructed, but, I think I've evolved a little bit. But like that was back when I would do much more characters. And when I started off, I would do my dad, I would do my brother-in-law, and stuff like that. So it's fun to hear that. But like you
can kind of hear some of the influences like in your modern stuff. Like I can definitely hear your style developing, which is really wild.
Yeah.
And also, wasn't imitating your dad the thing that made you stand out in your family because your brothers were like funnier than you? But you could do this awesome imitation of your dad, and then you got respect in your family.
Yeah,
Isn't that
I
kind
was
of
the youngest.
legend?
I was the youngest of 6, and I think I was just competition for food. But I did this impression of this intimidating figure in our household, which was my dad, and I think that gained me favor with my siblings. I mean, a little bit. I was mostly a nuisance for them.
What they told me was that you were just spot on. And then also when we did the whole show where you played your dad and we made you up like him and you looked exactly like him, like his brother reached out and said you just completely nailed like the walking, the movements, the behavior, the intonation. Like he like literally was like, it was like my brother was back to life, which is...
That's very fun. And what's the name of that episode? The Mike Gaffigan Show.
The Mike Gaffigan Show. I wish I could tell you where to find it.
Well, iTunes.
On iTunes.
Amazon.
You can find it on iTunes.
Or Amazon.
All
right, so that's good. Thank you for enjoying Cinco. I'm Jimm Gaffigan. This is my lovely bride.
Jeannie Gaffigan. And I'm a great driver. Actually, I'm better than Jim.
Maybe.
So if you ever want to drive with me.
Hopefully you'd be better than me.
I do hope I'd be better than you.
But you're not.
It's ironic.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I wish I liked fish. I wish I was the person in the rrestaurant so like, I don't get to go out to dinner that often, but instead of getting a delicious steak, I'll get the fish because I like disgusting food. Because fish is disgusting. How bored are you with eating if you're ordering the fish? Just bring me something gross. I like to waste money. Who's the first person to walk into a harbor and go, hey, whatever reeks in here, let's eat that? Fish don't even like fish. That's why they're always frowning. They're like, what's that smell? Oh, it's me. I'm a fish. What's the best compliment you can give fish? Is to say that it's not fishy. Isn't fish supposed to be fishy? Get the hamburger. It's not burgery. Fishy is an indication something's wrong. Something fishy going on here? No, everything's burgery. I'm Catholic. Every Friday during Lent, we eat fish, which is supposed to symbolize the suffering of Jesus on the cross. What? Which means at one point someone was like, how should we honor the sacrifice of Jesus? And the other guy was like, well, we could fast, we could starve ourselves. No, that's too easy. What if we ate fish? The other guy was like, I'd rather be crucified. It's a true story. It's in the Bible. Fish. Some cultures, they eat fish for breakfast. Good morning, here's some fish. It matches your breath. I'm not even hungry in the morning, granted, because I ate a couple hours earlier. But fish? I was in Iceland, went down to breakfast. At the beginning of the buffet, there was a bottle of fish oil and 12 shot glasses. They're drinking fish for breakfast. I don't know when you're supposed to drink fish, but maybe not when you wake up. Do you want the orange juice, the grapefruit juice, or the fish juice? The best news that ever happened to grapefruit juice. Finally, I'm not the worst thing on the planet.
Morning person.
Yeah.
This is a pretty consistent theme in my stand-up.
You hate morning people.
I hate waking up early. I'm more envious. I think hatred is usually just masking something like that.
Well, I think the reason this is so funny is that everybody loves bed. Like, everybody in the world loves to be in bed and sleeping in bed and lounging around in bed. And the whole thing is that it's just two sides of the same coin. People who are morning people, they go to bed at like 8 o'clock at night. Yeah. And they love them some bed at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So everyone loves bed.
But going to bed at 8 o'clock at night, that's brutal.
Right, but some people love that. They're like, well, time to turn in. I'm tired. Where you're like, well, it's 8 o'clock, time for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, because 8 o'clock, that's when you can do something because most of the kids are asleep. I mean, not all of them. Now they never go to sleep.
But you love being in bed.
Yeah. I want to figure out a way to do stand-up in bed.
While eating.
Yes.
So, Jim, what I'm getting is that you do like fish?
No, I don't like fish. And I was thinking about this when we were listening to that. I think growing up, where I grew up, like, there wasn't...
Fish.
Like, you just wouldn't... I mean, I grew up on Lake Michigan, but you wouldn't eat fish.
You ate fish sticks, though, frozen fish sticks.
Yeah, but that's not fish.
It's not.
It's fish, but it's not fish. But I do wish I liked fish, because you enjoy salmon, and that just...
Makes you sick.
It tastes like someone left tuna outside for a long time. But I don't like fish.
You really don't like fish.
And as I travel the world, I'm shocked. Like there are countries where they're like, look, we mostly eat fish. And I find that amazing.
Well, a lot of people didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
They just had fish. That was their meat.
That's because they're communist.
Right.
Okay.
Travel a lot. I'm constantly going through security, always behind that person that's never left their house before. They always want to ask me questions. They're like, can I bring soup on the plane? It's homemade soup. I'm like, you should ask them. For an ID, can I use a fishing license? You should. Should I take off my shoes and my pants? Yes, you should. Airport security is annoying. It's nothing compared to international travel, like going through customs and immigration. That's so intense. They're dressed like SWAT team members. I always get so nervous. I'm like, do I have heroin on me? I don't even know what heroin looks like, but I might have accidentally packed some. There's that mini interview with the customs agent. What do you plan to do in that country? Murder people. You got me. I wasn't ready for your trick questions. I always feel like an idiot when I travel internationally. Some of it is I don't know the metric system. It's not like I wasn't exposed to it. When I was growing up, they're like, learn the metric system. Everyone learn the metric system. Big switch coming up. And then 10 years later, they're like, never mind. It's too hard. It's based on tens. Let's go buy an SUV. So now I can't ask a distance when I visit another country. I'm like, how far is that? They're like, that's 500 kilometers. I'm not in the Olympics. This isn't a James Bond film. What's it in normal speak? I don't speak any other languages. I have friends that speak Spanish and French and Portuguese. I don't care. I speak English, the language Jesus spoke. At least he did in the movie I watched. I always love doing that joke. There's always a couple of faces in the audience like, don't say that. Because you travel internationally, you realize some people don't like Americans. I mean, the Canadians like us, and the Israelis like us. The Australians like Americans so much, it makes you question their judgment. You should read some of our history. But I get a kick out of what Europeans don't like about Americans. I was like, you Americans are dumb, you know nothing about Europe. It's not that we're dumb, we're just not that interested. Sorry, I don't want to learn more about your windmill country. He's gonna get a wooden shoe in his ass. First time I did that joke, the whole front row was Dutch people. And they didn't care, they did, I don't know, they have no emotion, it doesn't matter. He's the most anti-Dutch comedian ever. Obviously, I love traveling internationally. The only negative, too many foreigners, right? The weird thing is you travel around the world and you realize pretty quickly people are the same wherever you go. Wherever you go, there are good people and there are Russians. See, the reason that's funny is because we were all raised with this bigotry towards Russians. I have a friend, he was born in Russia. He moved here when he was 3, and I still think he might be a spy. We don't know. The best is when you're visiting a country and someone thinks you're a native. I was waiting for a cab in Stockholm, and this Swedish lady turned to me and she was like, Bjorn Borg, Bjorn Borg. That's not what she said, that's what I heard. But I knew in that moment that once this lady found out I was American, she was going to be disappointed. So I just decided that I was not going to speak any language she spoke. She was like, Bjorn Borg, Bjorn Borg. And I was like, ah, 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 ah. She was like, tu parlez-vous français? And I was like, ah, 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 ah. She was like, do you speak English? And I was like, that woman is now my wife. It's just like the Notebook. What?
Seasons.
Love this track.
Oh, well, thank you. And this definitely started as a commentary on how we were always surprised about the heat during summer and the cold during winter. Like, we were always caught off guard. People complained like we weren't prepared about it.
Like it never happened before.
Yeah. And so that inspired some of it. And then so it was building around winter and summer. There were separate jokes about summer, but the winter, it became very apparent that I really couldn't talk about winter without addressing, I think, kind of like the Midwestern American view. Like, the association with winter is very just archaic in a way. You know, we're just we become used to it. And actually the severe winters make you appreciate summer. That line was actually a guy, when I was doing a show in Winnipeg, a stagehand said that to me. I'm like, well, it's freezing. I think it was like October and it was snowing or something like that. And he was like, these severe winters make you really... And so I attributed that to my dad, but...
Because it sounds like something he would say.
Absolutely. And...
But then in a separate area, the leaves thing came out.
Yes.
And then it became very clear that we had these 3 seasons.
Yes.
And then I pushed to add spring.
Yeah, you made a point of pushing to add spring because it was like, you have 3 of the 4. You have to complete the entire group.
And there's not much on spring because there's not much of a spring. And that's what became the joke about spring.
Right. And I would also say that, on the winter thing, when we were talking about Midwesterners, we had a joke that you came up with, which was great, that we had to cut, which was about how it morphed into a different version.
Oh, I'm still angry about this.
Which was about how people were tricked to move to the Midwest.
Right. So we have the bit now about the con artists trying to get people to settle in the Midwest instead of going actually west.
Yes.
And calling it the Midwest and the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
But there was a joke initially where the guy was trying to push them on settling there to go there, but it wasn't great. So the people were kind of lazy. So what I had proposed that we were going to say was, okay, that's why they're called settlers. Because they're like, yeah, it's not great, but I'll settle for it.
Yeah, I have to trick and treat in my snow pants. Yeah, all right.
I'll settle.
I'll settle with it.
But
you want to settle with me? We could be settlers together.
Yeah, we'll just settle for it.
But then...
And it was great. All of a sudden, like 3 months after we've been performing this, you go ahead, Jim.
So we got off this summer tour where we were on a bus, and we were very excited about, as you build a chunk, there's pieces that make you even more excited to come up with more material. And we saw a series of commercials
that used the settler joke.
Yes. And so, no, I think it was like 6 months later where we couldn't determine if they saw us do it or if it was just parallel thinking.
It would be like such a weird coincidence. The timing was so weird. But they went to like the next level where like people were like dressed like settlers and they were like, we're just going to settle. And it was the exact same joke. So we had to cut our joke because it looked like we were being derivative when actually it was our original idea before this commercial even came out. So that's one of the casualties of this special.
Yes. And then what I would also say is that the foliage, and I'm about to get to it on the next track, which Mary Had a Little Lamb, but like the foliage in the Northeast, particularly in Western Massachusetts, is so stunning, or in Vermont. It's so beautiful. You kind of get it. It's like when you go to Paris and you see how beautiful Paris is, you're like, oh, maybe I understand some of their arrogance. And so, like, the foliage thing in Western Massachusetts, you realize what beauty it is. You realize why someone would drive. But, so I understood the appreciation for it after I had established some of these jokes about foliage, about the fact that we're just enjoying the death of a leaf.
Yeah, and also the fact that it's as if we did anything to create it.
Yes.
Like the pride people take in it. Is that, it's like taking pride in something that you have nothing to do with.
And some of the summer jokes, I would say, I think it was inspired by your love of summer. Like people that love summer, like that are like sad when summer is over, which you're one of the people.
Mm-hmm.
It's, there is, I think that kind of inspired some of the winter nostalgia for summer.
Yeah, like you take out pictures of summer. Like summer becomes personified.
Yeah.
Like a family pet that passed away. But can I just really go back to the leaf thing? Like the leaf thing, to me, about the leaves dying is sort of this alternative way to look at things that, when you look at something and take it as face value, we don't really think about the fact that this beauty that we're marveling at is actually death.
Yeah.
Which is kind of heavy.
Or in which we kind of go on further with raking up the leaves. And
lighting them on fire.
Yeah, kids jumping in them.
I'm aware my wife is out of my league. She's very thin and attractive. I look like I had 2 wives and I ate one of them. She's amazing. She's my writing partner. We do everything together. She's brilliant. She's creative. I can't read her handwriting. No, we're total equals. When we rent a car, I won't let her drive. And that's not sexism. I just don't want to die. She can drive my kids around. I don't care about that. But if I'm in the car, She's amazing. Probably the most impressive thing my wife can do is her ability to remember absolutely every horrible thing I've ever done. And she'll just bring it up. We'll be watching television. She'll be like, remember that time you humiliated me when we went out to dinner? Now I do. I must have blocked it out searching for self-esteem. I don't want to misrepresent her. She's very forgiving. It's just the forgetting part. But we all aspire to be forgiving. Pope John Paul II forgave the guy who tried to assassinate him. Granted, he was the Pope. He couldn't be like, let's torture this bastard. He kind of had to forgive him. But Pope John Paul II went to the guy's jail cell and forgave him. But then he left. It's not like then he had lived with the guy. Like if the Pope lived with the guy, we would have seen how long that forgiveness would have lasted. Pope, your turn to do the dishes. Didn't you shoot me? I think it's always your turn to do the dishes. Bless you, my son. Pope, that's a tough job. Anyone Pope here? No? Pope's a tough job. You know it's tough because the last one quit. It's like, I'm done, I'm out of here. Everyone in the Vatican was like, you're supposed to speak for God until you die. And the Pope was like, God told me to quit. And eat more cheese. Our new Pope, Pope Francis, calls people on the phone. I don't know why you'd ever believe it's the Pope. Hello, it's the Pope. Oh, can you hold on? I have Spider-Man on the other line. My wife loves talking on the phone, and I would rather be hit by a car. I'm not saying a big car, but a Mini Cooper, I'd take that over a 20-minute conversation. She's always like, it seems like you're trying to get off the phone. I am. I love you. I just can't hold my arm up for this long. I can't believe any of us talk on the phone. There's email and text. Sometimes my phone rings and I look at it and I think, this person better be calling to tell me their hands are chopped off. I just wanted to hear your voice, Daddy. Buy my album. That is all for me. Thank you so much.
Binge watching. I mean, this is something we do.
I love TV.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like different now. It's not just like you're watching bad TV. Like, TV is really good.
Yeah, and we spend so much. What people don't have to understand is like that is our social life. Like
It's our like date night.
That's our every night we usually.
But there's
watch an hour.
really good TV on.
Yes.
Right? Like we don't. I mean, I don't want to insult anyone else's taste in TV, but like we watch really good shows.
Yes.
And you kind of have to. Like I'm already behind. Like, it's like people are like saying, have you seen this? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And it's like defining our generation. So it's like back in the day being like, you didn't read Tale of Two Cities?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the case. Now, and there's different chunks. I mean, some of it is we actually figured out a way to get all these TV jokes in there, except for one didn't make it in, which was you ever watch so much TV you have a hangover? I overdid it last night on the weeds. It was not.
Yeah, it never really was. But you do have a TV hangover. Like if you watch that one extra episode, like in the morning, you're like, why did I do that to myself?
Right. And then cable news is something that we've constantly been trying to figure out, just because it really does make us miserable. And I would say that an interesting thing is that the landline thing, the line, when our landline will ring, my wife and I, we won't even move to answer it.
It's just like a background noise.
Yeah, and that's true, but that was also my brother Mike. He brought that up in Maryland, but he didn't even mean it in a joking way. And it was just, I heard him say that, and I'm like, that is a joke. That's like an observation. That's perfect.
So you're admitting you stole that joke from Mike?
I stole it from my brother Mike.
Because little boys are savages. I have 3 little boys. Each of them has headbutted me for no reason at all. Oh, well, we are in church. Okay. It's different. When you have a daughter, you have thoughts like, maybe I should save for med school. When you have a son, you're like, there's going to be a couple rounds of rehab. That's okay. I have 3 boys, 2 girls. I have enough kids where even Mormons are like, you should settle down. I travel with my kids. My 2 youngest are 3 and 5-year-old boys. And traveling with boys that age is like transferring serial killers between prisons. We've seen the movie, it doesn't work out. My 3-year-old, I love him, but he's eternally in a bad mood. He always has a look on his face like he's gonna shiv you with a crayon, or he's pooping. And sometimes it's both. And our 5-year-old, he's an escape artist. He's the El Chapo of children. You just put him down and he runs. And then I have to pay my 12-year-old to go get him. Sometimes she can't find him and I'm forced to stand up and look for my own child. Sometimes I can't find him. I mean, you always find the kid. The joke doesn't end with, no, I got 4 kids, You find the kid. They're with a security guard. They're always with a security guard. That's an awkward approach, because I'm with my 4 other kids. I look like a moving diorama for birth control. Doesn't help that I'm usually eating something. It's hard to seem concerned about your child's whereabouts holding a corn dog. Oh, there he is. Now where's Mustard? But that's parenting. It's stressful. Parenting is a sacrifice. It's exhausting. It's expensive. At times it feels thankless, but eventually you die. My wife hates that joke. My wife hates that joke. And in full disclosure, she does 90% of the work, and the 10% I do feels like too much. Like, I'm getting ripped off. 10% of 5 kids. That means I'm in charge of 1 kid for like half a day. I'm like a single mom. That's a joke where the audience thinks, maybe Jim is a dick. But my wife is amazing. Even in the most stressful moments, I will catch her looking at me with an expression that could only be described as regret. But she's Catholic, so there's no quitting the team. Thank you, Jesus. Summertime, we went to a bunch of fairs, too. It's amazing how your perspective on fairs changes. Because as a kid, you're like, the fair, there's a fair. As an adult, you're like, that looks dangerous. Are they cooking in that truck? We used to go to the fair to see the biggest pig in the county. Now we go to the fair to be the biggest pig in the county. Some of that food at fairs, it's ridiculous. Deep fried Oreos, okay. Deep fried Twinkies, maybe. Deep fried butter, no. You know, occasionally you'll eat a stick of butter. What if we deep fried it? No. It's wrong. I mean, it's delicious. But it's wrong. I don't know. There's no health inspector at the fair. That's why they can do that. Because everything at the fair is very temporary, meaning when the cops come, they can leave. And some of those rides don't look safe. I'll just let my kids go first. No sense in us all dying. But you never want to be judgmental at the fair. You're always like, you know what, I'm sure this ride's fine. You know, I'm sure the guy running the ride, he's probably a structural engineer. Right? We don't know. That's probably how he lost his arm. You know?
Elevators and water parks. Okay, well, the elevator jokes I've had for quite some time, and some of it is you have jokes and they're not a complete chunk, and you kind of, you know, you think maybe I'll expand these. And what happens with the elevator jokes is that when I would explore other topics surrounding elevators, it was really kind of, you know, whether it be weight capacity or the weight that you might have to occur for an elevator, making jokes of that. It just felt like, you know, like 1980s stand-up. So I just stuck to these simple elevator jokes, and then the stairwell one. Now the water parks joke, which is relatively new. It was at the end of that tour. And, you know, I try not to do material that is making fun of other people. I don't like the us and them kind of stuff. But I think that I figured out a way to craft it where I'm making fun of them, but I'm putting them in the same position as me. But then at the end, the water parks, I mean, everyone's there just for their kids. But it's, you know, at least I have shame. I don't know.
Oh, my God.
What?
Nothing. No, I just think it's okay because you're saying I'm terrible and other people are terrible.
Yeah, I'm a fat guy, you know, and there's fat guys there. I mean, you know, it's like if you're a parent, you don't have time to work out. I think that's the, fact that I'm dealing with.
And also just the input about the elevators. I'm so happy that the elevators found a home in this special. And it did follow very well from the amusement park bit.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those things that we just sort of pretend that we're not going to die like any
Trusting.
second.
Yes. Yeah. I make this very bold statement that it's easier to be a guy.
It is easier to be the guy.
It is. But, I'm dealing with, that given fact that people know that, but also I'm kind of taking it on a cosmetic level, which is dangerous in a way because that is a chauvinist view. So it was kind of a nimble process of writing and rewriting because I didn't want to characterize all women wear makeup.
I think it's really clear that this is from your perspective. Like, you're just saying that you're looking around at other people being like, I don't care enough to take, the belt out of my pants to change my pants. I think that's a very personal perspective. I don't think anyone would obviously someone is going to take offense to everything.
Yeah.
But it's like there's a way that you're describing it that is pretty clear about your kind of a simple view of it.
Yeah.
But there's a zillion ways where it's harder to be a woman.
Obviously, right?
But you breaking it down to the belt thing, I think, is pretty good.
Okay, good.
I approve.
I'm a good guy.
Sometimes.
Thank you for being here tonight, by the way. Okay. This is my 5th hour special. I have one for each of my 5 children. So hopefully this is the last one. It's beautiful here. I hope you had a nice summer, because there's pressure to enjoy summer, right? I'm from the Midwest. It's almost a panic. Go out there, have fun. Winter's coming to kill us. Go get skin cancer now! Because there's an expectation of fun during summer. In winter, we discuss summer with such reverence. In January, you'd think we were talking about a family pet that passed away. Remember summer? I miss summer. I have photos of summer. That's when we were a happy family. Summer's presented as a vacation. It's like a 3-month vacation for nobody but children. And who doesn't deserve a few months off after the rigors of kindergarten? I have 5 young children. During summer, they lounge around like they've just returned from fighting ISIS. 3rd grade was a beast. Summer vacation does kind of set up an adulthood of disappointment. That first job, you're like, I have to go to work in July? What is this, Russia? There's a strange pressure to travel during summer. Are you going somewhere this summer? Why do I have to go somewhere? Well, we lived here during the horrible weather. Now that it's nice, we should go somewhere else. That makes no sense. And winter is some horrible weather, right? We're never ready for it. We're never ready for the seasons to change. Even in October, we're caught off guard. We're like, it's getting cold. What is this, every year now? We're not angry. In February, people are angry about the weather. We want to blame someone. We're like, it's freezing. Obama. It's that darn Obamacare. No Obamacare, be 72 degrees out there. There's always a couple guys that don't care about the cold, right? They're like, what is it, 2 degrees out there? That's nothing. I went golfing. I'm wearing shorts because I'm a dick. Those are the people that go swimming outside on New Year's Day. Don't you secretly want them to die? Not all of them, but you watch the news like, not one fatality, huh? But I should be used to it. I'm from the Midwest. All the memories of my childhood, it was always winter. It was winter and I was walking through slush past mounds of snow. When I was in high school, I saw a photograph of Siberia where Stalin would send Russian prisoners. It looked exactly like my hometown. Is that my bike? That's my bike! I asked my dad, I was like, why do we live here? Why would you stay? And he's like, well, you know, the severe winters, they really make you appreciate summer. It was at that point that I realized he was an alcoholic. Oh, you're just drunk all the time. It's pretty warm for me always. As a kid, I used to imagine people were tricked to move to the Midwest. They were on the East Coast in a covered wagon 200 years ago. Someone was like, whoa, where are you going? Oh, we're going out west. We're going to go out west. West, huh? Have you thought of the Midwest? Midwest? Yeah, it's like the West, but it's closer. Tell you what, do you like amber waves of grain? No, I have celiac disease. Well, how about lakes? Everyone likes lakes. Lakes in the Midwest are good. In fact, they're great lakes. One of them's Superior. I'm not going there. But I do love the Midwest. Every Christmas, I go to Milwaukee. I love telling my friends in California that I go to Wisconsin in December. They're like, oh, no. Don't go there. Like, that's where my wife's family's from. Oh, you should get a new wife. All I do in Wisconsin is eat cheese. I know it's a cliche, but in Wisconsin, it's like they're trying to get rid of it. Oh, hey, you want some cheese? I just woke up. That's a yeah, right? Have you ever eaten so much cheese you think, I may never use the bathroom again? People on the East Coast think that's weird. In the Midwest, that's Monday. But it's the weather. That's why we eat the way we do. We're just like, it's still winter. It's summer, but I'm on a roll. It's not always winter. There's spring. People love spring. That's a fun day. What a lie spring is, right? I always spend the entire spring waiting for it to be spring, right? You're like, is it spring? No, it's snowing. Next day, is it spring? No, it's 90 degrees. I guess we miss those tiny white flowers. Fall, people love fall. It's my favorite season. It's not a competition. My favorite season that I'm voting for in America's next top season is fall. People that love fall, they go crazy for the foliage. They're like, oh, the foliage! Let's drive by the foliage! It's so beautiful the way the leaves die. They're so pretty right before they fall to their death. We think it's beautiful. It's the leaves' hospice. It also helps that the leaves can't talk. If they could talk, they'd be like, ah! Give me chlorophyll! Why are these people driving by and smiling at me? You monsters! We're rather insensitive to the leaves' tragedy. They die, they fall to the ground, we just rake them up. Kids, you want to jump on this pile of dead leaves? No? All right, I'll just light them on fire. The poor leaves, all they know is spring and summer. And then in October, they're like, where's everyone going? Early in November, you always see a couple leaves hanging on. They're like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it through winter. Me and my buddy Carl, right, Carl? Carl. The pine trees, they must resent the attention the leaves get. Stupid leaves. Everyone's driving by looking at the pretty leaves. I don't even bother to get to know them. After a couple months, they're dead. Come December, you'd be climbing a ladder, stick a star on my head. Why would a pine tree sound like it's from Brooklyn? How many jokes about seasons does this guy have?
This look.
So you're talking about your look.
Yes. Well, it's just, it's trying to find topics.
I love it how you describe yourself as the ultimate Aryan fantasy, and then you're like, but actually I'm not.
Yeah, because I'm not. Well, the thing is with comedy is you're always punching up, right?
Right.
So if you're a woman, you can punch up that you're dealing with, sexism, or if you're African American, you punch up the fact that, being a minority. But like as a white male, you don't want to punch down.
Right.
And the only thing you can do is punch yourself in the face.
Punch in.
Punch in.
Out of my way! Because everyone turns into a jerk in an SUV, like, I don't need a blinker! Remember 15 years ago when they were like, stop buying SUVs, everyone. They're wasteful and bad for the environment. And we were like, okay, I'd like to buy an SUV. No, I have a reason. I don't care. I don't own an SUV. I don't even own a car because I'm a good person. No, I live in New York City and I have 5 kids, so I just have them carry me around. I know nothing about cars. I come from a car family. My dad loved cars. My brothers love cars. They talk about cars. They go to car shows. My brothers pay to look at cars they will never drive. And I thought strip clubs were weird. Most of the accessories are wasted on me. I've never used cruise control. The heated seats, I always feel like I just wet myself. Oh, this is nice. Can we swing by the emergency room? I think this is also a symptom of a stroke. When I go home to Indiana, I always rent a car. My brother Mitch is always like, what kind of car you rent? I'm like, it's blue. Is that 4 or 6 cylinders? Blue. I do know that the most manly form of transportation is a pickup truck, because my brother Mike has a pickup truck and he's a real man. And at this point, pickup truck commercials give me anxiety. They're like, you can tow 1 ton, you can tow 2 tons, you can tow an aircraft carrier. Why? Why would you need that? I only see it going to Cracker Barrel. But people that drive pickups, they want to be associated with the work ethic. And based on that, I should drive a bread truck. I was with my brother Mike at a plant nursery, and I was like, hey, if I buy a small tree, can I put it in the back of your truck? And he's like, no, you'll get the bed dirty. And I realized something. Everyone I know who owns a pickup truck is not picking anything up. It's like walking around with a big empty suitcase. Are you going on a trip? No, but I'm the type of guy who would. Ram tough. Ram tough. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Lower your expectations. Thank you. Wow. It would have been weird if you didn't clap, I guess. If I walked out and you're like, well, let's see. Let's see how fat this bastard got. And the answer is fatter. I gave up a long time ago. Now it's like it's happening to someone else. Oh, someone should do something. I feel like I'm witnessing a forest fire. I hope they can contain it. Change a channel. This is real. This isn't a prosthetic. I did it myself. It's organic. I am a fat guy. There's indications. I've caught myself unconsciously covering my stomach with my arm. That's a total fat guy move. Now I'm thin. Can't see my belly. Fat, thin. Maybe I hope people will look at me and think, is he holding a baby? Oh, he's thin and nurturing. What a fella. I know these pants are tight. That's a little gift for the ladies. And some of the fellas. can't control who I turn on at this point. These pants are tight, but after I wear them for a week, they'll look fine. That's my approach with clothing. Eventually the clothes go, all right, I'll adjust. You could get bigger pants, or I could just stretch out. Whatever works for you, Jim. By the way, this shirt, when it's untucked, goes down to like here. It's frightening. It's so long. I look at it on my bed, I'm like, is that my shirt or a sleeping bag? It's huge. But then when I put it on, I'm like, it's a little tight. What am I going rollerblading? But I don't care. Did that sound believable? Because that's our go-to, right? When there's something we can't control, we just act like we wouldn't want it anyway. I don't care. Who'd want to be thin? Who'd want to look healthy and attractive? Everyone. Not me. I'd rather look like a marshmallow with a wig on.
Okay, belts. What I think belts is a classic example of is just finding a little topic and kind of just dissecting it away. The irony, I think, is that the belt that started this chunk, which was essentially one that I just saw was worn away by wear and tear, is actually the one I ended up wearing in the special because, if you recall, I flew from Boston and you guys flew from New York to Columbus. And so that belt, that ugly belt, is the one I'm wearing in the Netflix special.
Even though it wasn't the new belt that you were referring to.
Right.
It was the old belt. An interesting thing about the belt story is that originally I thought the belt should have been the torturing device on Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And you changed it to the belt was tortured on Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, it was the torturing. It was used to torture people on Game of Thrones. And you're like, no, it was tortured on Game of Thrones.
It was torture. It's
and
more
you,
of a
of course,
victim.
won. Yeah, it was a victim.
Yes.
And you won, and you were right.
And, so then the belt thing segued into suspenders. And the Santa belt, I like to think the Santa belt was inspired by the time that I played Santa on that Sesame Street special. But I think it was before that. I mean, I think we've always been, Santa is just such an interesting, we tried to do all these jokes about how Santa is the only fat guy. Like, if he wasn't giving away presents, he would be on, like, the Maury Povich show. And people would be like, you got to lose weight, loser. You know what I mean? So Santa has always been kind of like this ripe target. He
was the last time that, people were like, oh, he's the jolly guy.
Yeah.
Like, people don't call him fat, they call him jolly.
He's the last remnant of a respectful fat man. And so then...
it was the wider the belt, the greater the illusion.
Yes.
And Santa's belt is very wide.
Yes, it's like a conveyor belt. And then, of course, we get into... We're mixing in science in some of these, like with the suspenders. I love the idea of a suspension bridge.
Yeah, definitely the suspenders and the
suspension
bridge.
I remember one thing that we kind of debated over was every action has an equal opposite reaction. That was something that when we would tour, you would bring that up after every show.
Right, because the belt is ironically supposed to keep up the pants, but then when your gut gets too big, it just starts to drag them down. So it's kind of very scientific, as is the equator.
Yes, it's I'm very smart. Or you are.
Or we work together well. I don't know. One of them. Animal
lover. Unlike you, I love animals. Like, you hate animals. Would you say that you don't have a heart for animals, Jeannie? That would be...
this is a reoccurring thing with you. It's different to dislike animals than to be like, getting a puppy right now with 5 kids would literally make me go insane.
Yeah, but I know you, and you're just like the fact that animals they're not wearing diapers and they're walking around nude. And I know you very well.
I know,
well.
I'm such a prude that I'm like, put some
it's
clothes
not
on
about
that dog.
Prude. It's just like a dog, like a dog climbing into your bed. That makes you itch a little bit, right? Because you don't have a heart for animals.
Look, here's the thing. I've read all the studies. It's actually very good for children to have dogs and this and that.
But
none of you would take care of the dog.
That's true.
None of you would. I would take care of the dog. That's my only hesitation about getting a dog.
All right. The animal lover thing. We travel too much. Animal lover. The
dog in the purse.
There's the dog in the purse thing. There's that, but there's also, I wanted to point out that ended up, dolphins are mammals, and people do tweet about that a lot, is that we did have a version where, of the joke where, the dolphin kind of correcting a fish. He's like, like the fish was like, hey, fish like us, we got to hang out together. And the dolphin's like, well, I'm actually a mammal.
And the fish is like, what's that on your back? And he's like,
it's a fin.
Yeah. Yeah, where do you live?
In the ocean.
Okay, mammal.
Yeah, no, you're a mammal. Yeah, like, what are you? You're a mammal, like, a tiger, right?
Right.
Okay.
But it's not that bad. It's easier to be a guy anyway. I mean, there's sexism, but just the day-to-day life of being a woman, honestly, it looks too hard. Just hair, what some women have to deal with, cut and color and goos and potions. What do most guys have to deal with their hair? Not having a mullet. That's all a guy has to do is not have a mullet, A+. And there's still some guys that can't pull that off. They're not talking about my mullet, are they? No, you've got a good mullet. It's easier to be a guy. Makeup, some women wear makeup. Most guys don't change their pants because their belt's in there. Are these jeans dirty? Is there a belt in there? Ask me in 2019. And I'm not saying women are doing any of these things to please or impress a man, but some of it's self-inflicted, like the eyebrow thing. I mean, that's on you, ladies. There's not a person on this planet that's sitting there going, I'm looking for someone who's removed 90% of their eyebrow hair. I don't even know what some of these ladies are going for. It's like, I want to look constantly surprised. Like I'm about to eat a baby. But it's a man's world. I don't have a joke for that. I just want to remind the ladies. I'm kidding. The weird thing is, if you have little kids, if you have little boys and little girls, you would never think it would ever be a man's world. Because if you put a 3-year-old boy next to a 3-year-old girl, and you had to pick who was going to be in charge in the future, you wouldn't be like, the boy, the one chewing on the table. My 3-year-old didn't get me a birthday present this year. Yeah, and I've known him for a couple years. So I'm not talking to him. Presents are interesting. I don't really need or want anything. I mean, my life is pretty chaotic. I have 5 kids, and I have friends that love stuff. I have a friend who has a drawer of watches. I have another friend who has 5 cars. Whenever I'm with these people, I realize I'm just simple. All I need is a nice bed and a private jet, Now, I have the bed. All I need is the jet. And it could be a used jet. I'm not a snob, I mean, I don't want a prop plane. I'm not trash. Just a regular old private jet to take a regular old guy to a regular old private island away from his kids. I'm just salt of the earth. I'm an everyone. That's ridiculous. This year has flown by. I don't want to brag, but I've kept my New Year's resolution. I've done it. I've had pasta every day this year. Thank you. I tell you, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. There were some nights when I was like, oh my gosh, it's 11:30. I haven't eaten pasta. I have to wake my wife up and have her make me some. But I do it because it's about personal accountability. By the way, if you believe I would wake my wife up, you're drunk, all right? Because I'm afraid of her, all right? But I like being married to a strong woman. I do it. And I'm sure there are other men in the audience looking at their wives like, honey, do you want me to clap? Or, do you like what he's saying? Because I'm on your side. I just don't want to talk about it later on. I do like being married to a strong, decisive woman. But you know what? I'm in charge of the remote control. That's where I draw the line, all right? I'm in charge of the remote because I'm the man, all right? I mean, she picks all the shows we watch, but I get to hold the remote. Because that's the kind of puppet dictator that I am. Being in charge of the remote control is a no-win situation anyway. The person you're watching with is never satisfied. They're like, turn it up, I can't hear it. And then you turn it up and the commercial comes on. Turn it down, what's wrong with your hearing? I'm always in trouble when we watch television. Stop crinkling that bag. Once I got in trouble for sneezing. Why would you do that? I think it's involuntary. Well, now I didn't hear what that guy said. All right, I'll rewind it. Oh, now it's starting the whole episode over. Here, you should be in charge of the remote. I'm gonna go back to hiding in the bathroom. Because I'm a man!
International travel. This is, really inspired by the fact that I love to travel internationally, but then when I finally do it, I have some frustration because I think it's weird being an American traveling internationally. And I think some of these jokes capture that, whether it's going through customs or just, our ignorance on the metric system. I didn't get to put in some of the metric system weather jokes, like when I'm in Europe and I see them do the weather and there's like all these 20s on the weather map. I'm like, I don't know what that means. It's, like it's the middle of summer or fall and they're like 20s on a map. I'm like, I don't know what 20 means. Like if it was 0, I would know. Anyway. And then the final joke about, people being disappointed when they discover you're American. That goes back to like when we did a show 15 years ago in London, and I was in a store, and a lady turned to me and asked me something, and I started talking, and she heard the American accent, and I saw her frown. But we are going to continue traveling internationally, so I love it.
And also, I think that what's interesting about this joke is normally, for comedians, it's considered an enormous taboo to talk about anything to do with airlines or air travel or airports, because so many comics over the past 40 or more years have been sitting on airplanes bored and being like, what else about this airplane? Yeah. So it's kind of looked at as a very tread upon, subject. But in this instance, this is kind of talking about your very particular experience as the dumb American traveler, which is kind of a persona that you've sort of developed about how we just are only in our own world. And, people actually measure things differently, like weather and distances and things like that. So I think it's... I
like to think they do it wrong, but yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
And also, isn't this where the callback to the SUV bit is, kind of?
Yes, this is the callback to the SUV.
Which came later,
because as we build the hour, there's moments when you can call back. We've done it in all the hours, and
just discovering that there's something similar about the way that we, sincerely as a country tried to educate the students, the children, to adopt the metric system because it seemed really easy. Yeah. And then when it didn't work, we were just like, let's go buy an SUV, because it was sort of the exact same principle.
Yeah. Exactly.
As the SUV joke.
I'm a man. I am a man. I'm a man. I guess I don't know how that would be. Anyway, so this is all about how it really kind of feels, it feels very foreign, the whole manly machismo chauvinism thing. In a way.
This is really behind the music.
It is behind the music. But some of it starts with this joke about, it's a play on the idea that I don't understand other people's, materialism. But, and I thought about this as I don't care about cars. I don't care about houses and stuff like that. But then I thought, I do want my own plane. So I am it's a joke, my kind of judgment of other people's consumerism. And then when we get into the fake kind of male chauvinism of waking my wife up to make me pasta, I thought that was really an effective way to kind of play into this, because I am married to you, a strong woman, that I think that there's something funny about that. Obviously they're not kind of unrelated, but the male chauvinism is really kind of, it's something if you're married to a strong woman, you can't get away with that stuff. So
basically you're scared of me.
I'm scared of you, and I'm a great guy. That's the whole message. And then some of it is, touching on our favorite activity, which is consuming television, and how
Netflix.
I'm in charge of the remote control, but you pick all the shows that we watch on that remote control.
Or I'm constantly critical of the way that you're handling the remote control, which
and
is
that has
a
nothing
metaphor
to do
for
with
our marriage.
That has nothing to do with you being a wife. It has to do with the other person that you're watching television with. Anyway, once
And being
again,
smarter.
I'm a great guy. Fairs. So we have had the opportunity to perform at many fairs. And I remember being with Tom Shalhoub and driving up to the Allentown Fair and, making an initial observation about how people will go on these unsafe rides after they've eaten the most unhealthy food in the world. It's like, what would make me sick is if I had like a deep fried Oreo before I went on this roller coaster that I'm sure is missing a couple parts. And so...
But when you're a kid, you don't think about that at all.
You don't think at all.
Because, all those thrill-seeking places, like now, like we'll go to like a nicer amusement park, but you're still seeking the same thrill, like that feeling of like almost dying.
Yeah.
Like we're all seeking that same thrill. As a kid, you don't realize that at the fairs you are almost dying.
Right. And that was one of the topics that I really couldn't figure out was this notion that no one wants to die, but we love the feeling of almost dying.
Right.
Which is what we get at amusement parks and fairs. And we should point out, like, the stick of butter joke I think that was like a last minute change.
Yeah, because the stick of butter was part of the setup.
It was part of
It was like deep fried Oreos, deep fried butter, deep fried puppies. And I was like, no deep fried puppies.
Well, yeah, it was
like just don't even. It's funny,
but it was funnier when I was
dark.
like, it's wrong. I mean, it's delicious, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
It was It was a groaner.
It wasn't worth the consequences.
Right.
That's some of it is like sometimes you can be so shocking, but if someone, if you lose them, you lose them for a
It wasn't more. It wasn't like people were with it, but they were just going, oh, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, how many reactions do you want? You know what I mean? It's not really your thing.
That's right. That's not what Jesus would want.
Because inherently we're trusting. We're very trusting of elevators. We're like, what is this, a casket on a string? Let's hop on. I don't know, it works, but if it shakes, we'll giggle. We giggle because we realize no one's driving the elevator. We're like, we're all gonna die. Should we press one of these buttons or climb through the trap door in the ceiling that leads to every Bruce Willis movie? What do we do? We also giggle because there's no talking on an elevator, right? You get on an empty elevator, you and a friend, and you're like, I'll tell you later. It's like a den of awkwardness. You just stand there like, are we supposed to kiss? What are we doing? It's very strange. Not as awkward as a stairwell. You ever been in an abandoned stairwell by yourself? You encounter strangers coming the other way. There's always that moment where you meet eyes where you're like, if you don't rate me, I won't rate you. What are you doing in this? What am I doing in this? Are we in an episode of Law and Order? But we volunteer for these awkward situations. Sometimes we pay to participate, like water parks. Those are fun, but there's always that moment where you're like, is this a meeting of people I don't want to see in swimsuits? Because there are people walking around water parks with a confidence that they shouldn't have. And you almost admire it. You're like, you go away from me. You try and figure it out. You're like, is it the fumes from the toxic chemicals combined with the children's urine? What gives you that swagger that would make Beyonce blush? But you don't want to be judgmental. You're like, you know what? They're there for their kids. I'm here for my kids. And compared to them, I look like Magic Mike. So, God bless them. During the summer, I tour with my kids, and we'll do like a kid activity during the day, and then I'll do a show at night. And usually the kid activity is like a zoo or a park. When we were in Erie, Pennsylvania, we went on a pirate boat ride, which was pretty authentic, because when I think of Lake Erie, I think of all them pirates storming the shores of Western Pennsylvania. There were like 50 kids. They were all dressed like pirates. I felt like I was at a children's Jimmy Buffett concert. And I tell you, those kids were having that time of their lives. Kids love to dress like pirates. The murderers and rapists that pirates were. And we think it's adorable. It's so cute. He looks just like one of those sociopaths who terrorize the Caribbean. We let our kids dress like murderers. Darth Vader that genocidal lunatic? It's fun. The devil, it's cute. Hitler, no. No parent wants to explain that one. Why is your boy dressed like Hitler? He's fascinated with the Third Reich. He gets it from his father. His father's man cave is all Hitler swag.
Box of donuts. This story was inspired by the fact that I am often given food after shows.
Gifted.
And sometimes, and for a period, it was very much donuts. And I remember when I started...
Or other related unhealthy items.
Yes. It's never, here's a bag of celery. I remember specifically I was in Toronto, and in my hotel room, I was sent gourmet donuts from some company, from the concierge. And I remember thinking, oh, these are pretty exceptional donuts. I should bring them home to my kids. And so I contemplated bringing them home, and that, because I've brought food home before where you've looked at me like, why did you bring this home? And I'm like, I don't know, someone gave it to me.
And I'm also thinking of like the people who gave it to you just watching you just like take it all and pack it in the bag and be like, sure, it's for your kids.
Yeah. And so like the donuts, because it's so improbable that it could make the journey, it's like, it's like you never get Mexican food for delivery because it just doesn't travel well.
It just will be like a bowl of goo.
Yeah. And so the donuts, this was kind of where I just thought out what it would be like if I brought those donuts home. And then that's it.
It's a good story.
Speaking of foliage, I have to tell you, last October I was in Western Massachusetts, and they're very proud of their foliage. They're like, you see our foliage? Nice job. Good work doing nothing. And I was with a friend, and we drove by this schoolhouse, and my friend was like, you see that schoolhouse? That's the schoolhouse where they wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I was like, am I supposed to be impressed by that? And he is, well, it is a national landmark. And I'm like, are people going, come on, kids, let's go see where they wrote the worst song ever? But what I didn't realize is that Mary Had a Little Lamb, in its day, was a huge hit. It was huge. It was like their Uptown Funk. Which makes you wonder, what was going on in the 1830s? Have you heard that song, Mary Had a Little Lamb? It's the song of our generation. It's so complex. It's about this girl, Mary, who had a lamb that was little. The song explains it better. I'm not doing it justice. My friend told me, he goes, that song's based on a true story. I'm like, well, I hope so. Because that would be the worst made-up story ever. How bad were the other songs of that era? Johnny has a little smallpox. We'll all be dead by 30. And of course, my favorite, why does everyone smell like poo? Jim, don't do that. Fish. I was in Israel. Israel went down to breakfast. The entire breakfast buffet in Israel was fish, different types of disgusting fish. I know it's always comforting when a pale blonde guy is criticizing Israel. This is gonna go well. Grab your iPhone. It's this look. It's not easy looking like Hitler's wet dream, all right? This is not a good look. This is not the look you want for the tour of the Holocaust Museum. I've been to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. I think everyone should go. I just suggest you don't look like me. I was walking around, people were like, he did it! That's the guy from the photo! He's not an Argentine, he's right here! Get him! Actually, I'm too pale for Hitler, right? Hitler been like, I said Aryan, not snowman. I mean, meet me halfway, people. By the way, that's how Hitler sounded. I'm Hitler, baby, ba-bum-bum-bum-bum. The Hitler man came. I'm a very pale white guy. You know, I've yet to be the victim of any type of discrimination. I've been the victim of someone assuming I'd enjoy a racist joke. Have you ever had that? You're like, well, why would you think I'd want to hear that? Hey, he looks like he'd enjoy a little hatred. Maybe this bigotry will brighten his day. If anyone would have a problem with people with pigmentation, be the pale fella. But I know what I look like. I'm not saying I don't forget. You ever forget what you look like and then you walk in front of a mirror and you're like, oh no. When did that happen? Because during the day you're like, I'm Brad Pitt, I'm John Goodman. What's wrong with John Goodman?
Jesus, great shape. You know, in every special we've done, there seems to always be some jokes about Jesus or Jesus as a topic, not making fun of him.
No, it's always through your own perspective. So it's like, how would you perceive the concept of making bread?
Yes.
You would make pretzel bread. Like it's
adding some humanity to the
adding
idea.
your point of view.
Yeah. And, you know, it reminds me when we first got together in the late 1800s. And I remember I had these Jesus jokes, and I remember going, I can't do these, you know. I can't do these. And you were like, I remember the Moses burning bush joke. You know, you were like, no, that's really funny. You should use that.
Because you're not making fun of it. Like
there's
you're
something
making fun of yourself and humanity and our own, like, you know, sort of self-absorbed, gluttonous ways that humans are, and how this, like, just conceiving of this sort of higher spiritual thing is just so difficult for human beings to understand. Like, we hear, you know, it's like sort of like calling out the reason why people are following Jesus is to get the free bread. Like, it's like that has nothing to do with mocking anything Jesus is doing. It's mocking our own self-interests. And I think that it's really good to explore humanity that way.
I would say that in this Jesus great shape chunk, there was a couple ideas that didn't make in. One was
what were they?
You know, just in talking about Jesus, you know, that he was in great shape, that he never had to worry about people looking at an image of him and thinking that guy died for everybody's sins, and obviously from too much pasta. I mean, look at those love handles. Like, he didn't need to worry about that because he was in great shape. And then, you know, of course, I tried to do something about Jesus multiplied bread and fish, which is pretty impressive. But, you know, some people were like, what, no side dishes? You know, a little tartar sauce. You know, you'd think there would be a vegan option. I'm just saying. And so, like, it was just something about the humanities never satisfied.
Yeah, just people just grumbling about nothing's good enough.
So
it's like they're starving, but they complain that there's no tartar sauce.
Yeah. Hiking. So this topic was inspired by, I remember the moment is when we were in Bloomfield, Colorado. We were on a bus with the kids, and we were checking into a hotel. And we were checking in, and we were there with all our kids. And the hotel lady was like, are you going to go hiking? I can show you where you can go hiking. And our children are very young, and I remember thinking, wow, this lady knows nothing about me. But hiking ended up being kind of like the perfect topic for lazy Jim, who would never want to go hiking.
And picking it apart, like just what other things about hiking. So if you are familiar with Jim's comedy, like he'll just take a topic and just start picking it apart.
Yeah. And so two of the jokes that didn't, which actually kind of were early jokes that I think worked, was like hiking, you know, what's the appeal of hiking? You know, hey, come on, let's go see how horrible life was before we invented civilization, before we invented things like the car, you know.
The wheel.
The primary reason, you know, the idea that like the primary reason we invented the car was so that we wouldn't have to do things like hike. You know, and I thought it was really interesting because we had this hiking material, and then I went on a father-son trip to Alaska with Jack.
Right.
And it helped because we would go on these hikes, and he hated it so much. He would complain, and it really inspired me that...
Like, he wasn't even looking at the scenery. He was just looking down, complaining.
You know, in his defense, he was 9 at the time, or 8. And he was just like, this is the worst idea ever, but it helped. Okay, the track name is Jeannie. Jeannie, I named a track after you.
Okay, in all fairness,
Yeah.
you used to let me drive.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
then it wasn't even my fault. We were in Ireland. We were sharing the driving.
Yeah.
We were on the wheel was on the other side.
Right.
We were on a one-laner. And and a gigantic truck came barreling at us, and I couldn't remember for a minute which way to go.
Yeah, and we almost died.
And we almost died. But then you said, you're never driving again. And like, that's so unfair because you easily, if it had been your turn, the exact same thing would have happened. Maybe. And now all of a sudden I'm condemned not to drive while you're in the car.
You can still drive the kids around.
You've made that very clear, but you are afraid of me driving.
So you got this track. You got your own track named after you. I mean, I like to think it's an early anniversary present.
Thank you. The one that you just complain about me the whole time?
I don't think I complain about you. I would also point out that there are some jokes here that I did when I opened for the Pope. Some of those Pope jokes were...
So it's really not about me.
It is about you, because you are the Shiite Catholic. But other than,
than that, it's really about you.
I think it's a positive portrayal of you.
The fact that I just constantly bring up like all the bad things that you've done?
Well, I think that's not undifferent from how any couple behaves, whether it's either spouse.
So you're saying it's like super hacky?
No, no. I think it's a great observation.
It is. I agree. I agree with everything you say.
Anyway, I love you, Janie.
I love you too. Can I vote next year?
Still there. I wouldn't mind being in shape. You know who was in really good shape was Jesus. Nothing like the topic of Jesus take the air right out of the show. That's what he would have wanted. Hey, when you bring up my name, I want people to be really uncomfortable. And it's not just the Christians. Everyone's like, too soon. It's only 2,000 years ago. Let it breathe, buddy. But Jesus was in amazing shape, which is especially impressive considering he could multiply bread whenever he wanted. Boom, pretzel bread. The Bible doesn't specify what type of bread he multiplied. I imagine it was pretzel bread. Boom, pretzel bread. Boom, garlic nuts. That's why he had all those followers. Come on, maybe I'll make some focaccia bread. This is how people walked in biblical times. They were really into that Beyonce Formation video. And how many Beyonce references is he gonna have? But who knows, maybe Jesus could multiply the bread, but he had no control over what type of bread it was. He was like, you want some bread? Boom, pumpernickel. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Still free bread, everyone. Let me try this again. Boom, Melba toast. That's never happened before. That's the big guy playing a trick on moi. Of course, Jesus was multiplying the bread to illustrate a point. He was like, I can give you bread that can feed you, but I can also give you bread that can feed your soul. But everyone was like, yeah, I'll just take the food bread. I prefer the food bread to the soul food bread. Unless that's what you call cornbread. Because I love corn. Can you make pizza? I love pizza. I realize religion jokes make some people uncomfortable, especially the ones that are going to hell. Don't you dare! Get back to your regular food jokes.
If my dad was here, he would demand that you laugh. You wouldn't have an option. He'd be like, start laughing. He used to demand that we'd be in a good mood. He'd be like, go out there and be in a good mood. I'm like, Dad, it's a funeral. I don't give it. Go over there and stand next to the casket. My dad doesn't understand technology. I've lived alone for 10 years. I've had the same outgoing answering machine message, which is, hi, this is Jim, please leave a message. To this day, if I'm not home, my dad will leave the same message on my answering machine. I go, beep. Hello. Hello. Tell Jim his dad called. Who's he talking to? Yeah, Dad, my answering machine told me he called. I would have called earlier, but the toaster told me I was hungry. It's insane. He's retired. Ever since my dad retired, he gets on crazes. Like his latest craze is butter. I'm not making this up. I was talking to him. He's like, Jim, I've just had the best butter of my life. I'm like, Dad, you need something to do. Because butter's not that important. Then he proceeded to inform me that the butter was made by the Amish. Of course, he meant the Amish. But he's always had his own language. One time he asked me, he goes, Jim, have you ever been to Cancun? Yeah, Dad, what travel agent are you using? He's mellowed out a little bit. He used to be so intense. When I was getting ready for college, he sat me down and he goes, Jim, I'm not sending you to college so you get drunk and flunk out. Well, then I'm not going. You're going to have to send a neighbor. What is this, Russia? That's silly. He will treat you to things, my dad, but not necessarily things you want. He'll be like, tomorrow we're getting up at 5 a.m., sitting in a boat for 12 hours till your head turns a bright beet red. Happy birthday. He always wants to suggest things for my act, so every now and then he'll call me over to, Jim, here's a really cute story for your act. I was shoveling 2 weeks ago when the gloves I had fell apart. So I call up those bastards at Sears. Just then, call waiting breaks in. It's your brother. His wife's just given birth to a beautiful baby girl. Jim, why don't you use that in your act? Yeah, Dad, I think my answering machine wants to talk to you. He wants to come to New York. My dad's never been to New York. I could just see him dealing with some Egyptian cab driver. Okay, Mo Hamhead. I don't speak hieroglyphics. Let's go to the Empire State Building. You bastard. It's crazy. It sounds like